Let's continue here on the program. We're joined by a gentleman, as a matter of fact, he's in his 36th season as a head college basketball coach. It's 11th season as the head men's basketball coach at Houston. The Cougars are number 4 in the country, 24-4 on the season, 16-1 in the Big 12. A big win over Texas Tech on Monday to clinch a share of the Big 12 championship, and going to be at home on Saturday against Kansas. Kelvin Sampson is the head men's basketball coach of the Cougars. He joins us here on the program. It's a pleasure, Coach Sampson. Welcome to the program.
I appreciate it, D. Good to be on with you, man.
Absolutely. I got to start here. We're going to talk basketball, and all of that. I think one of the coolest things I've seen was a year ago. As a matter of fact, you grew up, playing ball at Pembroke in the Sampson County area and Lumberton and all of those kinds of good things, which is like an hour and a half from us. You received recognition for service, the Eagle Feather and the Lumbee Warrior Pin from the Lumbee tribe of North Carolina. And I believe that was about a year ago. I watched the video. It was one of the coolest things I've seen. What did that mean to you?
Well, I was born in Scotland County in Laurinburg, but I was raised in Pembroke, North Carolina, which is in Robeson County. My dad was my high school coach. He was inducted into the North Carolina High School Coaches Hall of Fame in the early 2000s. And my mom was a RN. She was the Director of Health Services at UNC Pembroke. So being raised in Pembroke in the Lumbee Nation was always a badge of honor for all of us. And I was fortunate to come up with a lot of people that were high achievers. For instance, the chancellor at UNC Pembroke, we're in the same high school graduating class. My wife, Karen, graduated when she was 20 years old, and she had a full-time first grade teaching job when she was 20 years old. My best friend from high school is an attorney right outside of Charlotte, played football at Catawba. But I could go down the list. Growing up in that area was invigorating, was motivating. You're around a lot of high achievers, people that wanted to do something with their life. But getting the Eagle Feather is a sign of achievement and respect, and I think how you treat other people. I think that's just as important. Sometimes we watch people on TV or you hear about people and you form an opinion, and that's really not what they're about. So I think treating people the right way, never forgetting where you came from, understanding that we're all fortunate to be able to do what they do. And then I'd say the last thing is one of the things I learned is I don't ever take myself serious. There's a lot of people given the opportunity. I grew up at a time when there was segregation. My dad taught and coached in an all-Indian conference. Charlie Scott broke the racial barrier at University of North Carolina, I think 1967. I was born in 1955. So I think coming from that area, I learned a lot of life lessons, but getting the Eagle Feather is a tremendous honor. But right away, it's something you share with a lot of other people.
No doubt about it. Thank you for sharing that. I thought that was one of the coolest things that I saw. And like I said, I believe it happened a year ago. So 69-61, big win over Texas Tech. You avenged the loss. That happened, of course, on Monday. Your thoughts on that victory? And it was on the road. As a matter of fact, 13 straight victories on the road, including that one. That is extremely hard to do.
Was the Big 12 record. I think Kansas had 11 in a row. Our last 3 road games, we won at Arizona, won at Arizona State, and won at Texas Tech. I think he went on the road by having mature players, guys that play for something bigger than themselves. We've been the champions of the Big 12 for 2 consecutive years, and but the people that deserve the most credit for that starts with the players. These kids have really invested in the culture that we've established here. The road win at Texas Tech, place seats about 15 or 16,000. And right before tip-off, they introduced Patrick Mahomes, who was sitting courtside, who played football at Texas Tech before he became a Super Bowl champion with the Kansas City Chiefs. That was a tough road environment. Our kids, but this year we've won at Kansas, we've won at Arizona, winning at Texas Tech. All great programs, all great coaches and players. So it's something that we prepare for. We've been lucky in some of the games that we've won that we certainly could have lost, but really proud of this group. We have tough-minded guys. We've got very good player leadership, and those are always the best teams when you have player-led leaders.
No doubt. In coming into that game, like you were down two of your top three scorers, and Milos Uzan really stepped up for you. He's like your fourth leading scorer on the season. He came out of this game with a game-high 22 points.
Yeah, it's actually they were without their two leading scorers, Darren Williams and Chance McMillan, two excellent players. But when you play against a team that's got a great culture and great crowd, great home court advantage, any road win is big. But Milos, our starting point guard last year, is playing for the Toronto Raptors. He was drafted by the NBA. So Milos is in his first year as starting point guard, and he's grown and developed as the year has gone on. We had some tough early losses, but I think we've won 20 out of our last 21 games, if I'm not mistaken. But I think a lot of that reflects his growth. He's gone from a brand new, we have four starters back, but we lost an NBA kid. And so we brought Milos in to be the point guard. Early in the year, he was still learning things. He broke his nose. He was out 3 weeks right before we started playing in November. But as he's gotten better, more confident, taken more ownership of this program, so is our team. So I think we've reflected his growth. And then we have some veteran players that really understand the commitment it takes to grind through a season and win the regular season championship.
Kelvin Sampson is in his 11th season as the head men's basketball coach at Houston. He joins us here on the program as we talk some hoops. What does it mean? You're not finished, right? Like, we know this. Within this program, you've had a Final Four appearance, but sort of what does it mean to only need one game with 2 or 3 remaining to actually win the Big 12 outright? Like, you're well on your way. I know you probably don't think of it that way, but you're well on your way to winning the Big 12 outright with still a couple of games remaining.
Yeah. Well, by beating Tech on the road, we still have 3 games. We play Cincinnati at home on Saturday, Kansas at home on Monday. Then we go to Baylor the following Saturday, March 8th. So I think Arizona's in second. If they lose a game and or we win a game, we win it outright. But our kids, I mean, again, that's a feather in their cap. I mean, they put in the work. I think sometimes you work, but you're not working purposeful enough. So sometimes you don't get what you earned. But our kids have a purposeful work about them. I have a tremendous staff that most of my assistant coaches played for me. 3 of them played for me at Oklahoma when I was the head coach there. So they know the journey that these kids are on, and they're able to not just be their coaches and teachers, but also their mentors. Because we really do have a family type program here. My daughter's the director of all our basketball operations. My son is the associate head coach. My other 2 assistants were my starting backcourt on a Final Four team at Oklahoma. Then the rest of the staff is have a connection to me somewhere, or their former managers. So I don't look at resumes. I don't take calls. I hire the people from within and I move them up, and that's what's made our program consistent.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Man, I tell you what have you learned about yourself in 11 seasons now as the head coach at Houston?
Well, I've always been a program builder. I was a head coach in college when I was 25. I was a head coach in the Pac-12 when I was 31. I've been a head coach in the Big 12 now for going on my 14th year, and I was a head coach in the Big 10. So, being a veteran coach, I know exactly who I am and what I expect. I think I'm the gatekeeper of the culture that we've established here. And that means I teach responsibility through accountability. I'd much rather have someone that's responsible than accountable. Because if they're responsible and they know what to expect day in and day out, and they work that way, then you never have to worry about accountability. So our consistency is what I'm most proud of. We've had 5 kids drafted in the NBA. We've been to Final Fours, Elite Eights, Sweet 16s. I think that consistent year in and year out has a lot to do with our staff. We haven't had a lot of turnover with our staff. They keep coming back, and that's given us an unbelievable foundation. Now, I lost one of my assistants to the head coaching job, and I'm probably going to lose another one here this year to a head coaching job. But that's also a part of my responsibility, is develop my assistants to be head coaches. And the staff I have, I've got 3 or 4 other ones that's going to be great head coaches. So we just have a great program. A lot of schools have good teams now and then, but our consistency and the sustainability of our model is through our culture and our ability to demand greatness from our players and staff.
I got to tell you, Coach Sampson, that when the rankings came out a couple of weeks ago from the NCAA in terms of that bracket, Houston was a number 2 seed. I asked Joe Lunardi about that a couple of weeks ago, and then I asked him last week in his own bracket. He had you as like Houston as like the number 6 seed, and I'm really bullish on you guys. And that's why I asked him. He did say he thought you eventually would be a number 1 seed. Do you look at that? Does your team look at that like, is it not as an underdog type of thing? Because I'm thinking, this is a Houston team that is fringe, one of the top 5 teams in terms of the bracket, and possibly could be a number 1 seed. Do you all look at it that way?
No, I never think about it. I think I've been to 20 NCAA tournaments. The grind every day, being inside the arena, media, you guys, it's a talking point for you guys. But for us that are living each day, of course, we'd like to be a 1 seed. We were a 1 seed last year. We were a 2 seed the year before. I mean, this is not our first rodeo with this stuff. But I found out that if you focus on the things you can control, which are the things in front of you, what you're talking about is something way ahead. I don't worry about things that are ahead of us. That'll be here eventually, but it has nothing to do with the way we're going to practice today. We play Cincinnati Saturday. Why in the world would I worry about what seed we are? Whatever seed we are, we'll be. We're gonna get a good seed. We have a great chance to be the back-to-back Big 12 champions. Hopefully, we will be. Got to earn it though. We're going to be a high seed in the tournament. And whatever seed we are, doesn't really matter to me. What I worry about is making sure we're healthy and we're in a bracket where we match up with the teams we play. That's more important to me than the other stuff.
Does this team, does it compare to maybe your team from 2020, 2021, or the 21-22 season where you went to the Final Four and Elite Eight, respectively? Are there any similarities, I guess I should say, there?
Well, the culture that we play with, our defense and how hard we play, how together we play, all our teams have those traits in common. What changes is the strengths of your team based on your players' skill sets. The 21 team was one of the 4 best teams in the country. We went to the Final Four that year and lost to Baylor. Baylor won the national championship that year. The next year, we go back to the Elite Eight, and we're 1 game away from going back-to-back Final Fours and we beat Illinois, the Big Ten champ. We beat Arizona, the Pac-12 champ. And then we lost a really tough game to Villanova, the Big East champ. Then the next year was our first year. No, it was our last year in the American. Went to the Sweet 16, lost to Miami that year. And then last year, we had a bunch of injuries and just couldn't overcome that. But we lost a heartbreaker to Duke in the Sweet 16. This year's team, I think, is more experience coming into the season. But at this time of the season, everybody's experienced. There are no freshmen anymore. Freshmen were in November and December and January. Once you get to February and March, they've got 30-plus games under their belt, and they're experienced. So we have a good team. I don't like comparing our teams, but this team is capable of doing really well in March. But our point guard is playing much better. We have pretty good shooters. Our inside depth is solid. So, yeah, I mean, we have a good team, but so does Alabama, so does Auburn, so does Duke, so does Florida, so does Kansas, Iowa State, Texas Tech. I mean, we play such a tough schedule that that's one of the reasons why I don't really look ahead too much, because, you know, we got Cincinnati here on Saturday. We got Kansas here for Senior Day on Monday. Then we wrap up the season next Saturday, March 8th. We have to go to Baylor. Then after that, we'll go to Kansas City for the conference tournament. Then after that, March Selection Sunday, March Madness. So it's all coming up here pretty soon.
Yeah. Not to look ahead, we'll stick with Cincinnati. As you mentioned, comes to you on Saturday. Your thoughts on the Bearcats and some of the challenges that they present?
Yeah, I think that first of all, I'm a big fan of Coach Miller. Great guy. I've coached against him, I think, 8 or 9 or 10 times now in the last 3 or 4 years. They made a change. They were struggling early, but they're really playing well now. Edgerrin James' son, Jizzle James, is really taken over that team. They've got really good size. They're really athletic. They're tough kids. They're coming off a great win against Baylor. So we'll have our hands full on Saturday. But you know, our kids were in Lubbock, Texas, Monday night. We got back right after the game. And so we've had a couple days to get recovered, and looking forward to having a couple good practices and go play a tough Cincinnati team.
Last thought, 36th season as a head coach in college basketball. When you think about your career in its totality, and I know, you know, sort of a broad question, but what most comes to your mind?
I think the thing I'm most proud of is I've always put my players first. I think that's where you get your longevity. You don't get in this profession to be self-serving. You know, you have to make sure you understand that you're a servant leader. I like to see our kids come in and grow from boys to men. I like to see them learn life lessons through basketball and become better players, graduate from college with a degree, and go on and have great lives. You know, become husbands and fathers, and come back and let me know how you're doing, stay in touch. I've always enjoyed that part, the relationship part. You know, people that judge coaches solely based on how much they win or how much they lose, in the big picture, that's pretty shallow. You know, most coaches are, first of all, really good people. That doesn't mean that they're perfect, just like anybody else. But they get into the profession, the ones that last, always keep the main thing, and that's developing players, helping them reach their goals, chase their dreams, and then learn life lessons through competition. And that's what I'll miss the most, is the relationship with the players and seeing them grow and do good in life.
Again, 36 seasons as a head college basketball coach, his 11th at Houston. The Cougars are 24-4 on the season, coming off the big win over Texas Tech on Monday. 13 straight road victories, by the way, and on Saturday going to take on the Bearcats with an opportunity to win the Big 12 outright. Kelvin Sampson, the head men's basketball coach of Houston, joining us here on the program. Coach Sampson, an absolute pleasure. Continued success to you and the Cougars.
Thank you. And it's always good to hear from one of my North Carolina